Hey, my name is Val, and welcome to the Dairy Hour podcast, where the future of farming isn't just in our fields, it's in our voices. Pull up a chair, friend. Let's share the story of agriculture, one voice at a time. As a busy mom and dairy farmer, I'm always looking for ways to support my family's health as well as my own, and I absolutely love Wonder Cow Colostrum. It's packed with essential nutrients, great for supporting gut health, boosts immunity, and promotes overall wellness. Whether it's for me, my kids, or anyone looking to stay strong and healthy, Wonder Cow is my go-to daily supplement. I have been taking it for a year now, and it is irreplaceable in my daily routine. If you want to experience the amazing benefits of colostrum too, you can use my special code, DairyGalVal, at checkout for a discount. Give Wonder Cow a try, and you will definitely feel the difference. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. I'm joined by a very special guest I've been trying to have on for quite a while now, and I'm so excited I finally nailed her down. Corey Scott, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, Val. And sorry I made you chase it.
No, hey, the good ones are worth the chase, right? So, and plus, life is busy. We get that, and that's how it goes. So, but I'm happy I've got you now, and here we are.
Very good.
So if you want to kind of tell everyone who you are and what you do, that would be a great way to start.
Thank you. So I'm Corey Scott. I am the CEO of Midwest Dairy, which is a regional dairy checkoff organization that serves 10 states and 4,000 farmers, smack dab in the middle of the country.
Smack dab in the middle. I love it. And you guys are always doing some really great things over there at Midwest Dairy. And I love to kind of keep tabs on you guys through the national checkoff organizations and just through seeing things on social media and, some of the really great farmers that you have in your area as well. And you're doing a fantastic job. And you're fairly new to the position, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I've been on the job about 14 months or so and a few spare days here.
14 months and 17 days and 2 hours, but who's counting?
Nobody's counting.
Awesome. I love it. So you are located in what state?
I live in Minnesota. If you're familiar with the Twin Cities, I'm northeast of the Twin Cities, about 40 minutes.
That's how everyone gives directions in Minnesota.
It's a real thing.
It definitely is. And if you're from Wisconsin, you put up, or is it Wisconsin and Michigan? I think you put up your hand to show where you are. Yep. Minnesota, it's like, where's your vicinity to the Twin Cities? That's how that goes. That's the little things that you pick up podcasting and meeting people from around the country. If you ask them where they're from and they immediately stick their hand in the air, you're like, Michigan or Wisconsin, where are you from? Like, what's going on here? So
I'm going to watch for that.
Oh my gosh, it's totally a thing. It's the funniest thing. But anyways, so we're here to chat about you, and I'm really excited to hear because I haven't had an opportunity to really get to sit down and chat with you. So I'm super excited to get to know you and know how you got to where you are, because that's a pretty big thing to do in life. And that's very exciting for you. So tell us about, where did you grow up?
I actually grew up on the East Coast. So we were talking about where you live in New York before starting the podcast. And I grew up in Massachusetts. A very rural part of Massachusetts, just kind of in the middle of the state, right on the northern border.
Okay. And what did life look like for you growing up?
Well, I was fortunate. So I lived in a very populous area, but I grew up in the most rural part of Massachusetts that you can probably find. So I grew up with horses and chickens, and my dad owned a construction company, and he was kind of a one-man crew for the majority of my growing up. So I learned how to do all the things. I can wield a saw just as well as I can a pen or a laptop. So I was very fortunate. I have 3 siblings. And when I was in high school, my parents moved us to South Dakota.
Oh, that's a big move to go from Massachusetts to South Dakota.
It was, but that was also kind of opened the door to a different world of agriculture, because where we were in Massachusetts, you didn't see, the row cropping and beef cattle and large dairy farms, for example. So we moved when I was a freshman in high school, and I survived.
I hope you did, seeing as you're here talking to us. And if you didn't, then I'd be really worried.
Yes. So I moved, I was in a school where my class sizes were 400 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved to a town where my class size was less than 70. So it was
Hey, that's still pretty big compared to some people's schools.
I know it, especially today.
Yes, definitely. So, how was that move on you, like that transition? I'm guessing you were probably pretty nervous, and how did that, play into what you ended up doing for any extracurricular activities or, things like that?
I fared pretty well. There's a couple nuances that made the move particularly exciting for someone that was a 14-year-old at the time. So in South Dakota, you can drive a lot earlier than you can in Massachusetts.
The countdown has decreased rapidly. Yes. Perfect.
So within the first year, I was in driver's ed, so that was phenomenal. And the age with which you could work a part-time job was also earlier. So we moved and I had a part-time job. I was driving. I went to high school. And the high school, being as small as it was, you essentially saw the same kids in all the same clubs all the time. So I got to do everything from, at the time, it was called Future Business Leaders of America, to improv and, drama club. So, yeah, my slate was full, and that was good. It kept me out of trouble, and we had a little more space there, so we had our horses, and I was very fortunate that I was able to show quarter horses all through high school as well. So I was plenty busy.
Awesome. Good to hear. And I want to touch on the horses thing too, because I do have some strong ties in horses as well. So you just show in the quarter horse circuits, or, what did you do with the horses?
Yeah. So high school, so South Dakota's state sport is rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up showing English. So if you know anything about horses, Val does. They're two very, 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 very different disciplines. So when we moved to South Dakota, we had our pleasure horses, are, really low key, bred to be a certain way. Yeah. They can lope in place. We used to take them out to the rodeo grounds in town and do all the things. So I actually, I was a reserve rodeo queen in high school. I never got the rodeo queen crown or the buckle, but I got the reserve buckle.
Perfect.
And I won the horsemanship contest as well. So
hey, that's the important part. That horsemanship is the big part.
You got it.
Definitely. And what was your first part-time job that you remember out there?
Oh, this is great. Dairy Queen.
Perfect. I mean, the things are just lining up. She's got the Dairy Queen. She's a, runner-up rodeo queen. She's got all the things going on. I love that.
Yeah.
And, what were your parents doing out there? You said your dad back in Massachusetts had a construction business. Did he proceed to move the construction business? What happened from then?
Yes. So when we were on the East Coast, my dad's construction business was focused on specialty roofing. So when you see the churches with the really fancy copper roofs or the slate roofs, that was his specialty. Now, Midwest, that's not really a thing. So he went to more of a general contracting. So home improvements, roofing still continued to be his specialty. But he also expanded. So my parents are both very entrepreneurial. He expanded into farrier work for horses as well as equine chiropractic.
That's a very sharp turn.
Yes. And
I can work on your house. I can work on your horse. What do you need? I'm handy with a hoof knife. I'm handy with a saw. Like, let's go.
Yep. I was sharing with Val before we started this podcast that my parents are here visiting me this week, and we are repairing the barn. So we're putting new siding on the barn.
You didn't tell me that you were putting them to work.
Yes. No, they're putting me to work. They're like, your barn needs redoing. We're doing it.
Oh, Dad, come to visit. This is what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Doesn't matter how old you are, you're always their child.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. So he was dynamic, and my mom was an eBay queen. So
Oh my gosh, really?
yeah, this was the time where eBay was just becoming big, and like Facebook Marketplace didn't exist, for example, or Etsy didn't exist. And she used
So approximately what year are we talking? Because I'm trying to figure out what side of eBay this is.
So this is we moved there in 2000.
Okay. Yep, there was some serious eBaying going on.
Yes.
Was she one of those eBay tax sellers?
Sent.
Oh, I 100% bought stuff from the eBay tax sellers back in the early 2000s. I'd be scrolling eBay as a, 12, 13-year-old, and I'm like, Mom, look, we need to get this. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Now that we've really put that connection on there. Oh my gosh, that's a throwback right there. The days of eBay auctions and bidding on stuff and hoping that it came and it was actually what you bid on.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It was full of tack. Yep.
Oh, that's great. So, you're growing up in South Dakota now as a high school student, and, you're working the jobs, you're driving earlier, which is super cool. What direction, as you started to progress through high school, what direction did you see your life heading in? What did 13, 14-year-old Corey want to be when she grew up?
Great question. It was not a veterinarian. Everyone wanted to be a veterinarian, I feel like.
I know. That's important.
Yeah. I wanted to be a marine biologist, Val. I missed the boat completely, but
she goes from wanting to be with sea cows to actual cows. It's fine. It's cows. It's just different types of cows.
Yes. So I was going to be the first generation essentially going to college. So I told you my first job was Dairy Queen, but I was a perpetual worker, and things have not changed, but
I'm guessing it runs in the family based upon all of the different tasks that your dad took on, and your mom being the eBay entrepreneur that she was. So I'm guessing that working is probably pretty thick in your roots. Yes.
It's in our blood. Exactly. Yeah. I worked part-time at the sales barn too. I left that out. So I worked at Dairy Queen for like a year, and then I went into waitressing and working part-time at the sales barn. And I worked in the kitchen at the sales barn, but I also worked in the office actually, if you've ever been to a cattle auction, you have your auctioneer, and before everything was digitized, there was like the controller next to the auctioneer that had an old school black screen, green writing SAS system where they're putting in the sale prices for each lot. I did that. So that was kind of my first exposure into agriculture beyond the horses at home, because horses, let's be real, a lot of people in agriculture are like, they don't count.
Yes.
And
there's definitely different types of horse people. Those that are agricultural and those that are just strictly horse people. Yes.
You got it. Couple different categories, 100%. So being in the sale barn actually is what gave me an interest in pursuing an agriculture school for my undergrad. And if you go to South Dakota, you will hear everybody is all about SDSU, South Dakota State University. And me being a high school student, all of my peers were going to SDSU. And I said, nope, I'm not doing it. That's where they're all going. I'm going to find someplace else.
So they want to go there and become a vet.
Yeah.
Corey said, if they want to do that, I don't want to do that. If they want to do that, then I don't want to do that either. Okay.
Yes. I toured the University of Minnesota Crookston, which is a small campus up by the Canadian border. It's not a big campus by any means. But when you walk onto that campus, it immediately feels safe and like a family. And so I went and toured that campus for marketing. Mm-hmm. To answer your question, Val, I had no vision for my future. So we'll just start there.
She's going to college because she can.
Yes.
And she doesn't actually know what she's doing. Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing. I got a bunch of academic scholarships and earned myself a free ride and said, okay, I should probably use that. So At the time, Minnesota and South Dakota had reciprocity, which doesn't exist anymore. So I essentially had in-state student tuition rates, and I was paying for school on my own. So off to Minnesota I went
For marketing.
for marketing.
Okay.
That switched about a year in. I assume we're going to keep going, but that
Yeah, of
switched a
course.
year in.
Yeah. So bring us to Minnesota, and you're
Yep,
going
so
for marketing.
I went to Minnesota, University of Minnesota. They had an NCAA equestrian team. And so I was on the Huntsy and the Western team. I was a captain for the Western team for a number of years, and I worked on campus, and I was in the marketing program. And I ended up taking a couple agriculture classes. I don't remember why I got into these agriculture classes, but micro econ was just absolutely murdering me. So I took ag econ and loved it because it was applicable. We were talking about commodity markets and futures markets and things that just really, like landed, right? And so halfway through school, I switched and I went for ag business, ag econ, and I came away with an equine science minor, just for the cherry on top.
Just for fun.
Just
Why
for
not?
funsies. Yeah. Yep. So, and I actually graduated early. So 3.5 years, December of my final year, which was the year of the economic crash. I was visiting with my advisor right before the winter break, and he said, you only need one chemistry class. You could not come back to campus. And me being the worker that I am, I said, okay. So I graduated in December, and the last summer of my college career, I had decided I didn't want to waitress anymore. And I had told my mom, I'm not going to work this summer. I have money saved. I'm not going to work. That lasted 2 weeks.
She got bored.
I got bored. So I walked into the local agronomy center in Sisseton, South Dakota, put a resume down on the desk of the manager. And he looked down at the resume and he looked at me and he says, nobody's ever brought me a resume. I don't know what you can do, but you're hired.
Through the door. We'll take you.
Well, thank you. So I had spent the last summer of my college career, I had spent learning how to drive a semi, and scouting fields, doing fertilizer mixes and doing chemical mix. So I was headfirst in agronomy purely by accident once again. So when I was able to graduate early, the agronomy center took me back and I did a winter at the agronomy center before starting my real career.
And what did you have thought up for a real career at that point?
No, I had zero plans.
I'm going to start my real career, but I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, it was great. It was actually phenomenal. I worked at that agronomy center, and the manager of the center was a very young guy. He had a number of roles with different companies, and the agronomy center was a CHS location. And CHS is, you can't pick too many great agronomy companies beyond CHS. There's not that many of them out there. And fortunately, we spent a couple months, and once I had done inventory 6 times over, he said, listen, you're making me crazy. There's not that much to do in the winter at an agronomy center. You need a job where you can be going all the time. So I'm going to get you connected. So he networked for me, and someone in his network had a supply chain job, a logistics job available at Land O'Lakes. And so I took that job, I interviewed and moved to the Twin Cities all within a 2-week period of time. And I was off and running in a career.
And there you go, working for Land O'Lakes, doing logistics. And, were you on what side? Because Land O'Lakes has so many different things that they're in. What part of that for logistics were you in?
Good question. So Land O'Lakes and CHS had a long-standing relationship in agronomy and fuel. And back in 2008, they had a little bit of a breakup, and Land O'Lakes started their own agronomy company called Winfield. And so Winfield was the company that I was doing logistics for. Primarily, it was on their crop protection side of the business. So moving chemical between service centers is what I was doing. I did that for about 18 months. And anyone that's in supply chain will tell you that oftentimes you're doing the same things over and over, maybe different materials, but it's essentially the same processes over and over. And I'm sure you've picked up that I don't do the same thing over and over and over very well.
And then she got bored.
So I moved to Purina, which is a different side of the Land O'Lakes business. And I formulated feed for Purina for a number of years. So I did that we did everything from horse feed to some of their exotic pet foods. So show cattle, show sheep, poultry, pigs, commercial diets, all the way down to, like cricket food.
You're close to your marine biology dreams, just not quite.
Not quite making it still.
Feed some marine animals,
I'm still in the middle of the country where there's no major bodies of water outside of the Minnesota 10,000 lakes.
Hey, there's a lot of water in Minnesota, all right?
Sure is, yep.
So off to the feed formulation you went for Purina. And, what do your parents think about all of this going on as it's going on? Are they just kind of like letting you figure it out? Are they trying to guide you? What's their take on this?
My parents have been, and still to this day, whatever makes you happy, Corey. And if you can pay your bills, great. Whatever those bills look like, however many horses you need to support, you do you.
That's the entrepreneur coming out. Like you just work till you have what you want, and then you're good for a little bit, and then you work some more and keep going. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
My parents, they tracked with me, they understood what the jobs were until this point. My dad loved getting the Purina hats. He still wears them. But this is the point in my career where I started to make some changes, where I got into more internal consulting type roles at Land O'Lakes. And I think if you ask them now, what does Corey do? They could answer the question like she's in charge of something. She's in charge of something. But I'm pretty sure there was a 10-year span in my career where they would be like, we're not entirely sure, but she does some really cool things. And we see her build a lot of PowerPoints.
She gets a paycheck. Other than that, we're not really sure.
We know she's smart.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So, how did things progress when you were at Purina? And, were you still like right in Minnesota? Where did you relocate at all? How did stuff like that? How did things look from outside careers?
Yeah. So, from Purina, I actually went back to Winfield for a number of years, and I never relocated. So I was living in Minnesota, but all of my jobs, actually from this point onward, most of my jobs had a fair amount of travel. You and I have met a number of times in different, vicinities. And so I started to travel quite a lot with Winfield. Winfield had grown so quickly. And with any business, you're bringing technology along for the journey, right? They had grown so quickly. The agronomy locations that they served in the field, technology and growth don't always keep up. So I spent a lot of time in the field working with controllers at agronomy locations to help them stay up to speed with the technology, but also understand where the pain points were. And so I saw so much of rural America. I mean, I have stories upon stories of rural motels and communities that I never, you would never think to have a reason to need to go and see and stay overnight. And
so I'm sure you've been in some sketchy hotels too then.
I mean,
yes. The answer is yes.
But what I love, and I still love to this day when I travel, I love a small town diner. One where you can get like a real roast beef, like a hot roast beef, open faced roast beef. Oh, I have a deep appreciation for small rural towns and the food that you can find in those towns in particular.
Like mom and dad make.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, I spent a lot of time traveling. I worked in the agronomy side for a long time. And somehow through my agronomy work, I got pulled into, it was a central business development type office at Land O'Lakes where they worked closely with all the other business units at Land O'Lakes and kind of evaluated pain points, where we're maybe not doing as well here as we could. What is it that we need to change the tides of that particular area of the business? So this was kind of my first like internal consulting role.
And about what year was this?
So that would have been right around 2012. So I would have been 4, 5 years, 6 years into my career. So 2014, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So just over 11 years ago. Yeah. And that's actually, that internal consulting role is where I took my first, dip my toe into the dairy world.
And how did that come about?
Well, the piranhas, no. It was for the animal nutrition business. They were making some strategic changes about how they, were addressing the dairy industry. And so I was asked to essentially do a deep dive into the dairy industry at the time. Who are the major players? What are they doing? What drives their purchasing decisions? More of that marketing lens. Mm-hmm. Finally, full circle, right? It happened.
Like, part of that year is not gone to waste. We've got this.
It has not gone to waste. Here we are. Yeah, so I did a deep dive on the dairy industry and came out with a number of recommendations in partnership with a couple other leaders within Land O'Lakes, a number of recommendations for our animal nutrition business on dairy. And I did that job, I did that project, and I swear that project is in like this little emoji. It's like this little dairy cow holding this, 3-ring binder, this project that I did, and it's an emoji and it sits here. And I've never lost it. It keeps following me. So from then on, I somehow landed in member relations at Land O'Lakes. So Land O'Lakes is a cooperative that's owned by just over 1,000 dairy farmers and agronomy, row crop farmers as well. But I went into member relations, and that's where I took really a deep dive in dairy. It was exclusively dairy. So I led a team of risk management and on-farm consulting experts. So I had a team of about 13 people, and they worked hand in hand with dairy farmers on essentially their financial picture and forward contracting of milk and other commodities. And I never really shook it,
And she dove headfirst into the dairy industry and realized that she was staying there, and she was kind of glued in there.
Yeah. I've been treading milk since then. So
I like that analogy. So what is it that you loved about being, in the dairy side of things?
I'll tell you. So this dairy has some nuances, right? But agriculture as a general whole, you will not find a group of people in any other industry that wake up and literally are thinking about how to feed other people first, right? They're either thinking directly about how to feed people or they're caring for their animals. Mm-hmm. And so finding a group of people that wake up every single day and think about somebody else first, that's remarkable. I'm not sure that there's any other industry out there where you'll find that. And I think it takes a special kind of person to sign up to do that for the rest of their careers or their lives, right? So that's the big thing about dairy is, and Val, this, you do it getting up day in and day out. You're taking very little time for yourself. It's always dedicated to somebody else, to the care of something or somebody else. And that's remarkable.
Yeah, and that's actually been one of my pedestals that I've been on, and I talk about frequently here on the podcast, is how we as a group of dairy farmers need to take that time and take care of ourselves, because we would have more to give if we took better care of, filling our cup per se, and, recharging and making sure that we're at the top of our game so that we can, perform better as, as it be said, and do the different things, because I know that myself, myself, when I take care of myself and make that a priority, I do a much better job taking care of others, taking care of my kids, taking care of my cows, taking care of all the other animals and people that are here on the farm with me. So that's definitely something that's admired in the dairy industry. But I do think that we as an industry need to take a step back and make sure that we are in fact caring for ourselves, which I think that, my generation and the generation younger than me are really learning that that is important, and hopefully making that change, because it's definitely going to end up being a generational change, not just something that one day you could be like, oh, hi, I know you've been farming for, 60 years. I'm going to need you to do this, this, and this first for yourself, because they're going to tell you to go scratch. So,
yeah, when you reflect, I'm guessing we're not that far in age difference here. I'm guessing if you reflect on the way you grew up and the way I grew up, mental health was not a conversation point ever. You know, active rest was a thing, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to sit and read a book for maybe 30 minutes, but then I better be out doing something, right? And that's just, I think it's a generational thing, to your point. Talking about self-care, what did you do for self-care? That's not something we talked about. How's your emotional health? That's not something we talked about. It's interesting to see my parents even pivot in the way that they think about it and talk about it. And my mom now is, she's a police of me. So what did you do for yourself this week? I'm like, who are you?
Mom's looking out for you. She got a book on eBay. She read it and she's ready to roll.
I'm like, what did you do with my mom?
I love that. That's awesome. So I guess back to, where you're at, you're in member relations at Land O'Lakes, and, how did things change from there? Because obviously you're not still there.
I am not still there. So Val, I should tell you, the first probably 3 roles that I had within Land O'Lakes, I sought out. So by the time I had left Land O'Lakes, I had 9 roles over the course of 15 years. So to give you a sense of how frequently I was moving, but the first 3 to 4 I sought out. Everything after that I was pulled, which is awesome. And I think probably one of the greatest things that happened for me in my career is I had sponsors that, saw what I was doing and would say, hey, we need this here. Let's put Corey there and see how she can do with that. So my departure from member relations was along that vein. I actually did not want to leave. I told them no. I did. I told them no. Land O'Lakes was going through this effort called business optimization. So again, it was kind of an internal consulting, not business optimization, I'm sorry, transformation. Optimization was the other internal consulting role I was in. So again, going through a transformation process of really taking a deep dive in a number of the businesses and ensuring that we're doing the right things with, member dollars. And this role reported up through the COO, Jerry Kaminsky at the time, and a leader in our strategy office. So they said, we want Corey. And I said, no. And they said, yes.
We take you. Now you come with us.
We take you now. And so I got pulled into that, and I did that for 2 years, and we had oversight literally of hundreds of projects. That was my job. Is I managed all the reporting for hundreds of projects and how that reporting went back to our executive team, but then also for the project leaders, just providing guidance and coaching in the way that they were going through the execution of the projects. So I did that for 2 years. One of the projects that I took a deeper dive on was in the sustainability space. And at the time, Land O'Lakes, and they still have them today, had an organization called Truterra. And Truterra was historically very row crop, sustainability focused, so cover cropping and reduced tillage, things of that nature. And they were wanting to expand into the livestock side of the equation. So I did a temporary project with them. And as a result of that temporary project, they hired me into a full-time role. And that was my last role at Land O'Lakes, was leading the Trutera livestock business. And I did that for about 18 months before I was recruited by a competitor. And that's when I left Land O'Lakes after 15 years. And my husband still works for Land O'Lakes. We did not meet there. We met showing horses. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But he still works for Land O'Lakes, and I work closely with Land O'Lakes on a number of things checkoff related. So I left there. It was a little bit like leaving the nest and, expanding my career into a different path that I never expected.
Awesome. And so I want to bounce back to you meeting your husband showing horses. Was he from Minnesota? Were you still showing horses in Minnesota? How did that come about?
He's younger than me, so I'll just say that.
That's fine.
He grew up on the western side of South Dakota, so Piedmont, South Dakota. It's a really small town out by Rapid City. We met showing horses in high school. He was in high school, I was in college, and as would happen with males showing quarter horses, he had no shortage of dating opportunities, and I was not one of them. So we were friends way back, and in 2018, as one does as someone in their early 30s, I was surfing Facebook and noticed that he was single.
Oh, hey.
So
how'd all those girls back on the AQHA circuit work out for you?
Yeah. So I see there are no females in your profile pictures. And I pinged him and he responded like that. So it was, at the time, he was working for a mining company out west, and 6 months later moved to Minnesota, and he's a mechanical engineer, and just so happened that Land O'Lakes had an engineering role open. And so he took that role and moved to Minnesota, and the poor man has never left.
And now he's stuck.
Stuck
there. That's great. So let's talk about stepping into your role at Midwest Dairy. And, you went right from Land O'Lakes right into your role, or did you have a different role first? How did that kind of fall together?
Yeah. When I was with Land O'Lakes, I had a caller, mentor, and a sponsor. She's in the dairy industry. She encouraged me to get my MBA. And so I did that. The last couple of years I was at Land O'Lakes, I was getting my MBA from the Carlson School of Business here in Minnesota. And I think one thing about an MBA for a lot of people is it acts as a catalyst to explore what they don't know, right? And so I was in my final year of my MBA, and there was a sustainability startup called Athian. They still exist. They had come to me looking to hire me, and I kind of put them on ice. I was like, well, I'm finishing my MBA. We're on our each year, or each cohort does an international business trip. And so you spend 2 weeks exploring businesses internationally. We went to Spain. And in Spain, there's a number of, startup incubators in Spain that are, it's a quite popular attraction for new talent to the region. And so we spent a lot of time learning about these incubators. And I came away from that trip coming from Spain and saying, I'm in my mid-30s. There's not going to be that many opportunities for me to be able to just completely pivot and try something brand new in my career. I say that, and I was doing new stuff all the time, but like outside of the comfort of Land O'Lakes, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to go to this startup. And I did. I went to Athian. I was the VP of sales and marketing for them. Marketing again. It's coming full circle again.
It is.
Yeah. So they did sustainability, carbon crediting work in the livestock space. They've had a couple successful programs for dairy. And I spent just over a year with them before the checkoff opportunity came about. And how this came about, I love the startup world. It was really exciting. it fed my creative juices. If this position had not come available, I would probably still be with that startup. But this position came available, and that sponsor from Land O'Lakes that I mentioned sent it to me, and she said, "Hey, this just came available. Did you look?" And I said, "Well, I saw it, And she goes, "You'd be great for it." I'm like, "Pretty sure you're nuts." "Pretty sure you're crazy." And she's like,
Here
"No,
she
no,
is being
no."
told to do something again.
Yes, yes. She's like, "Nope.
You're going to do this.
So, the funny thing is that they had an executive recruiter, Midwest area had an executive recruiter, and at the same time that I was applying, he was reaching out. So
How that works.
weird.
Very strange.
Yes.
Almost meant to be,
It's, when you look at my career pathing, and if you look at my LinkedIn, or you had a peek at my resume, you'd be like, wow, she has been all over the place. She's a little bit of a generalist. She doesn't necessarily specialize in any one thing. And so I was in that place in my career where I'm like, I need to sort out what that means exactly, because I've been a generalist. I've done all these things, and it doesn't fit the mold of any one thing very perfectly.
Yeah.
Until you look at a CEO role for Dairy Checkoff or some other, organization similar to that, where the sales and marketing and internal consulting and team leadership, all of that comes together in one piece. And that when the job description was next to my resume, it was like, oh,
I get it now. They were pushing me to do these things, knowing it would prepare me for the future.
or something great.
Something. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. So how has, adjusting into this new role, how has that gone for you? What different things have, come across that are just new and exciting? What have you had to challenge yourself in the areas of different things like that?
This role, biggest thing that I didn't expect coming in, two things really. The first thing, before I started my role, I had a dairy farmer that I respect. He said to me, "Corey, culture starts at the top, and you need to remember that. You're going from being an individual contributor, a team leader in a bigger organization, to now you are the top of the organization, and you set the precedent for culture." And I didn't anticipate how powerful that was. That's a real thing. That's a very real thing. If your people, you really determine, or you have a lot of the decision-making power over the things that make people either want to be at work on a Monday or dread work on a Sunday evening, right? So I underestimated the power of that. I have a lot of influence over, 60 people's lives and their livelihood and their health at work. The second piece I underestimated is the mechanism of checkoff and how checkoff operates, and truly how pre-competitive checkoff is, and really what that means from a commercial sense, or not from a commercial sense. I've always been associated with a brand historically where you have levers on both sides of the financial equation that you're working with. You're working to drive revenue and profitability and manage costs and expenditures. And checkoff is different in that revenue is already set, right? We know that you as farmers are sponsoring checkoff, and that has not changed for many decades. But how the dollars are spent in the promotion and marketing and ensuring that it's pre-competitive and that it's abiding by the set of standards that governs checkoff. I didn't have a full appreciation for that. And what I love about it is it forces creativity in different ways. Because of the mechanism of checkoff and how things can or cannot be used, it really forces you to build strong partnerships within the dairy value chain, and ensure that those dollars are being maximized multiple times over. And so you usually have a profit lens when you're thinking about maximizing dollars. And for us, we're maximizing basically the return in sentiment, right? do people love dairy more? Which is a really cool metric. Not something I would have ever guessed we would be measuring, but
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's definitely a big change going from a company that's profit driven to something where you like have that set amount and you need to drive success rates, but you also have to drive, getting the most bang for the dairy farmers' dollars. So that's really important. And I really, love how you've compared that and how you transformed yourself into that role. And I also really love the, culture starts at the top rule, because I think that that's super important. And, a lot of people these days, it is a hard thing to find a good workforce. It's hard to find people to work for you. It's hard to find the right people to work for you. And, once you get those people, keeping them is so important. And being able to put them into roles where they succeed and having that insight and knowledge, that's so important. And it's a really, really neat thing that you've gotten to step into.
I love what you just said there. One of the things that I tell my staff this all the time, I want you to be in a place where you can be your best self. And I want to build you towards your best self. I want you to feel what that feels like. And ultimately, if that means you're with us doing it, fabulous. But if it means you outgrow us, if it means you need to be somewhere else, I want to help you get there, because as a human being, you deserve to be your best self at work.
Yeah. And that's so important. And, I love that you are leading with that kind of attitude, because, you do run into these different organizations where it is like, you're stuck here, you're not leaving, like, we want you forever. Like letting people know, like, hey, if you see something that you feel is important to you and you feel like you could step into that, like, and be more successful or happier, whatever it may be, like, I love the fact that you're kind of giving them that permission and like, hey, we're still your family. We're here to support you, like, spread your wings. So that's a really awesome way to go about it. And I love that you look at it with that lens. I think that that's really important in a good leader. And I admire that about you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You've probably been in a role that you don't love and you don't give your best, right? If someone doesn't want to be there, or we're asking them to do something that really doesn't play to their strengths, it just doesn't, from a logic perspective, we're not serving our farmers the best way possible if that is, a barrier. So, and just as a human being, everybody, you spend so much time at work. And it just does not make sense to be in a job that does not fill your cup.
Yes, 100% agree. And with that, I want to transfer over, because I think that that's a really great spot to leave that conversation, because there's some really powerful stuff in there. I want to transfer over into some fun rapid fire questions, because I want to get to know more about you.
Ready.
Okay. Being a workaholic, and riding horses, because we've already touched on that. What's something else you like to do in your free time?
Ooh. So my husband and I are shooting sports enthusiasts. So specifically.
Okay. She's going to build you a house. She's going to ride your horses. She's going to hunt for your meals. Okay.
And a cook. I'm a damn good cook.
I mean, why your husband didn't wife you up sooner is beyond me. I mean,
right.
Come on.
Right. I mean, I think
other horse girls don't have anything on you.
There he is.
Oh,
he knows now. Those are my two best boys. Yeah, we're in shooting sports. So when we started dating, my husband was doing long range rifle shooting in South Dakota, and I was doing shotgunning here, because there's a lot of trees here. You can't do the long range thing. And I like shooting clays. So sporting clays is my sport of choice with shotguns. And the first time my husband came to Minnesota, I took him to a turkey shoot over Thanksgiving, which is basically trap shooting. And if you get a clay, it was a lime green clay. If you shot a lime green clay at so many yards, you want to literally a whole frozen turkey. So we went home with 3, and we were engaged a couple months later. So I feel like it's a magic elixir.
He loves me for my turkey shot. It's fine. He was like, this one can bring home the dinner. Let's go.
Let's go. Either that or he was scared. too.
Yeah, that definitely could also be a thing. He's like, if I run, she's gonna get me. This is not gonna be good.
You can actually.
All right, so now that the real truth has come out, wasn't because he was impressed by your shooting, it was because he was scared to death that if he ran, you were gonna get him. Okay. Now that whole truth has been uncovered, and that's amazing because that's one of those things I would have never guessed about you. So
You're welcome.
cool things that you learn. She's a multi-talented lady, everybody. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
What is your go-to comfort food?
This is
Let
gonna
it out.
sound so childish. Buttered noodles.
Oh, buttered noodles are so good.
Oh, I will be 100 years old, happily noshing on some buttered noodles with a little bit of Parmesan cheese.
Thank you. As my kids call it, sprinkle cheese. You got to put the sprinkle cheese on
You're
it.
gonna have the sprinkle cheese. I have upgraded from the, can Parmesan cheese to the sprinkle cheese that comes in a bag.
Ooh. She's living her best life there, guys. It's
Heck
fine.
yeah.
Her sprinkle cheese doesn't come in a canister anymore. It comes in a bag. Or because she goes through it, she's got to buy it in a bigger bowl. Well,
There's that. I didn't say what size the bag is.
I mean, we buy restaurant grade stuff for the food trucks and catering business, so I know that it comes in some pretty large bags.
Yes. There's a world of possibility out there.
I've got that down. What's your favorite kind of cheese?
Oh, I 100% don't discriminate.
If you have to pick, if you're going for one, just as a snack, like not to cook with, just do something.
Colby Jack.
Colby Jack. There you go. That's your Minnesota thing. Is that a big Minnesota cheese? Is that what it is?
It is. Yeah. What's interesting though is I was in Guatemala earlier this year with the U.S. Dairy Export Council, and they had it.
Ooh.
They had Crystal Farms Colby Jack in the grocery store.
She was like, day made, got my Colby Jack, life is good.
Got my snack. We're good.
Let's see. Favorite music genre?
Gosh, I really don't discriminate. Probably light rock, but honestly, anything acoustic. You can pretty much take any music, and if you put it in acoustic format, I'll love it. I love, having all of the auto tune and all that crap. I love having all of that gone and being able to hear just
what's actually happening.
Yes. Yep.
Childhood memory that shaped you. So it could be like working with your dad, doing something specific. Like when I ask you for a childhood memory, what pops into your mind?
I was just talking to my mom about this. There's two.
Okay.
There's one that's dairy related. You asked me about my favorite cheese and I lied a little bit.
Oh, come on. We don't lie here on the podcast.
I was reflecting. So when I grew up and we would go to the grocery store, the delis on the East Coast, you always got fresh sliced, whatever your meat was, and fresh sliced cheese, right? It's not the same way here in Minnesota or the Midwest in general. There are more delis like that popping up, but you have a lot more prepackaged meats and cheeses. So when we would go to the grocery store and mom would be getting her sliced cheese, they always gave us a slice of cheese fresh off of the block, right?
Yep.
That's my.
They go, is this the right size? And then they hand it to you.
Yes. And they always would slice for all of us kids. So that's one childhood memory and my favorite cheese. It didn't matter what flavor. Fresh sliced was.
If it was getting handed to me over the deli counter, it was for me.
Yes. Yep. The other one, I was just walking with my mom. We have raspberry bushes out here in the yard, and she's like, oh my gosh. Okay, so later this week, we're going to put on our long sleeves and we're going to put on our hats because, the bugs and it's bad. And we're going to go pick raspberries. I'm like, yes. Mom, do you remember when we used to do that as kids? And she's like, no, I never took you guys because that was my alone time. And I was like, no, you did. And I described where the raspberry bushes were and what neighbor they were next to. And she's like, you're the only child I trusted. So you're right. I did take you. So that's a childhood memory that comes to mind is picking fresh raspberries and blueberries. Blueberry patches on the East Coast versus blueberry patches here. They don't really exist.
Yeah. And it's a one for the basket, one for me. One for the basket, one for me.
Yes.
That's the proper way to pick berries.
Amen to that.
Very important. With it being July, National Ice Cream Month, what's your go-to what's your go-to ice cream order if you're going to like an ice cream stand?
Val, really? Do I have to? Because it's
Yeah.
anything. Okay,
Okay,
so
right now, if you're going to order, what do you get?
I will tell you, but first, I did a series of board meetings last week. So I was in 4 states last week, and I made a
Ooh.
point to have hard scoop ice cream in each of those states. And I had university ice cream in 2 of those states. So a number of our universities have creameries. So I have picked a favorite, but I'm not going to disclose who it is because in doing so, I will upset 9 other states.
Yeah, we don't want that. Okay, how about a local ice cream, like just a standard flavor? What do you go for?
So my go-to, if I am stuck with like a custard or a soft serve versus a hard pack, I'm going to do a vanilla with peanut butter, melted peanut butter over the top and chocolate chips or M&Ms.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that does sound good. You're a peanut butter girl.
Oh, some of my favorites in the grocery store are just chocolate with peanut butter swirl. Like I'm a very basic, give me the basic.
There's 2 local ice cream places local to me. So you're going to have to come visit so I can bring you to both of them and we can try the peanut butters. We have King's Dairy that has peanut butter. It's peanut butter. Oh my God.
Oh,
And then there is Ice Cream Man and they have peanut butter blast, which is like a peanut butter ice cream with peanut butter swirl and Reese's Pieces.
oh, I'm all about the peanut butters. I'll be honest
Yeah.
though, Reese's Pieces, I'll pick Reese's Cups over Pieces.
I mean, I would too, but it's pretty darn good. Not gonna lie. They're onto something with it.
I trust your judgment.
But Greg said the peanut butter, oh my God, is the best. So
Oh,
he
look at
takes
the
the
name.
peanut butter ice cream very seriously. Me, when I go to King's, I get the lemon because I'm a lemon fanatic, and they have the best lemon ice cream that I've ever had.
That sounds
And then
good.
you get that and a scoop of the Heaven, which is white chocolate with raspberry swirl. So it's the lemon and the white chocolate and raspberry. It's delicious.
So I'm kind of the savory, like butter pecan, anything with like butter in the name, and it's going in the mouth.
If it's got butter in the name, it's for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I love all the peanut buttery, that kind of stuff too. But like, I don't know, I'm a lemon dessert like fanatic. So that's what dairy lemon desserts. Screw those lemon ices.
Do you bake with sourdough at all?
No, I'm not. Sourdough, I've always I have this thought in my head, oh, I would love to have sourdough and do the sourdough thing. But in reality would be yeah, you've had this sourdough starter for a week and you already killed it. So
yeah, I have to keep it alive, which is
I have 3 kids
point
to
of
keep
entry.
alive. I don't know if I
Pass.
could also keep the sourdough alive. I think it'd be too much. I struggle with the couple plants that I have. So
That's fair. A girlfriend of mine just made a sourdough discard lemon, a glazed lemon loaf. Oh, it was out of this world. You would love it.
I like pretty much everything lemon ever.
Mm.
It's always, if it's lemon, it's for me.
I learned something new today.
The tart, I don't know if it's the tartness. I don't know. I love lemon though. So here we are.
Something new.
Yes, but so you have to come visit Albany and I'm going to take you to some ice cream places and we can go.
That is all the reason I need.
The ice cream tour. We've got this.
Got it.
Oh gosh. What if you could have a superpower, what would it be? Struggling to think here.
The power to heal.
That's a good power. Needed very much in these times. So I get that. And before I get into my favorite 2 questions, dogs or cat?
Why are you giving choices?
Sorry.
I was literally 4 dogs and 2 cats. So there you go. That answers your question. And I was
She's a
just
dogs
watching
and
one of
cat.
them. Yep. I was watching one of the dogs run here and I was thinking to myself, he's not supposed to be there.
Not where he belongs. This is not good.
Yes. The husband's in charge. He's fine.
He's in charge of the funny farm for the time being.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
And then my favorite 2 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Favorite place you've ever traveled?
Spain.
What was it about Spain that you just loved?
Well, Val, they still take naps.
One of my favorite places to travel is Germany because at 2:00 in the afternoon, you need a snack and it's let's eat cake fresh from the bakery down the road. And I'm yes, this is for me. Yep. Let's eat cake and then take a nap in Spain. I'm here for it. Let's go.
They still take naps. They have this wonderful drink
Best,
that,
best answer ever. Why? 'Cause
yeah,
they take.
yeah, it's just like hands down.
Oh, that was great.
Yep. There you go.
So your bucket list place to go.
Okay. India.
India.
India. Yeah.
That's in left field. Okay. Do they still take naps in India? Is that why you want to go there?
Okay, so here in Minnesota, we have a just very robust Middle Eastern and Indian population.
Mhm.
And one of the discoveries that I had here was my love for Indian food.
Mhm.
And my husband, I took him finally to my favorite Indian restaurant 2 years into us being together. And he takes his first couple bites and he puts his fork down. Actually, it's within the first year. Puts his fork down and he goes, I am so mad at you. I'm like, why? He says, you've been holding out on me this long. This is amazing. And we actually, for our wedding, we got married at a gun club, sportsman's
Of
club,
course.
and we catered Indian food.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And I have my friend group has a number of Indians that have all immigrated here, and so I have like the behind the scenes. Okay, Corey. So when you go, we're gonna send you here and here and here and here and here. So that's our bucket list. We can't wait to go and take the trip of a lifetime with the recommendation from all our friends.
You need to get that scheduled because that would be awesome.
Right? Right.
And then you need to like vlog it so you can take us all along.
I can do that.
You should totally do that.
I can do that.
Corey takes on India.
Mhm.
That's all the sacred cows. Does all the things.
Yes, that's also a thing. That should have been my answer. Cows are sacred.
Yes. We need to go to India because they're sacred. It's fine. And then you also need to find out if they take naps because that's going to determine if it overthrows Spain as the top number one.
Yeah. Well, I have to look into that.
Phone a friend.
Phone a
Do you
friend.
take naps?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it common practice? Is it culturally acceptable?
Yes. Can I take a, as they would say in Spain, a nice siesta?
Yes.
Oh, good. So here is your deep thought question left from a previous guest.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yes.
That was not 100% ready. It didn't sound. In a world where food is increasingly about convenience and speed, what do you think is lost when we disconnect from where our food comes from? And how do we reclaim that connection?
I just want to preface that my deep question is not established like this, Val. So I might need to send you a deep question after this podcast.
Okay.
This is a very good one. I think what is lost is the cultural nuances that come with food. When you think about where all of us came from, right? I had a really good friend that I unfortunately lost to cancer. She was in her 50s. She was Italian. She had grown up cooking authentic Italian dishes. And the time that I spent with her in my 20s in her kitchen while she was cooking sauces and cooking pastas and hearing the stories and all of the legacy and culture that came with those dishes that she was making. When we get disconnected from our food, when we are not in the act of making that food together or growing that food in, our communities, or at least just understanding where our food is coming from, right? All those cultural nuances over time become lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such an immense loss. I mean, we talk about Gen Z and dairy checkoff, and we're regularly trying to connect Gen Z to dairies and having that connection back to seeing the people that are raising the animals and creating the food for them is the most powerful thing, and changing their mind and creating advocates for whole foods as a result. So that's such a fabulous question.
I knew you'd like that one. When I picked it out, I said, yep, this is going to be right up her alley. We're going for it. So
I
love that answer.
I need to be thoughtful about my question, Val. So I'm going to just.
You're good. You be as thoughtful as you need to be.
Okay.
And with that, what quote do you have? What quote really drives you to be the best you can be?
Are you familiar with the Lorax? Dr. Seuss's The Lorax.
Somewhat, but not entirely.
Okay. So I didn't know who the Lorax was. But he's this little being that in Dr. Seuss world is a protector of the trees, right? He's kind of an environmentalist, but I gained exposure to the Lorax from someone in a conservation role in some of the work that I do. And he has the Lorax tattooed on his arm. It's this big buff. And he's got this little Lorax cartoon tattooed on his arm. But the Lorax is a protector of things. And he said something in the Dr. Seuss movie, it's, animated movie. He said, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. In true Dr. Seuss form, right? And so this ties back to that cultural, culture starts from the top. I remind my people all the time that they have so much power as individuals. They also have power collectively. But it takes one individual to care, to incite change. Whatever that change may be, big or small, it just takes one person caring enough to be the catalyst for that change to happen. And so I keep that in mind a lot. And I remind my staff on a regular basis, someone like you has to care.
I love that. That is such a perfect way to wrap up this podcast. And that's such a fitting quote for you. And I love it. That was fantastic. I don't really have anything else to say because you said it all. It was great. So,
well, Val, just remember through your podcast, you care enough to talk about the hard things. And I thank you so much for taking the time to get to know me a little bit. It's fun to do.
You.
Yes.
It definitely was a blast to chat with you today. And if people are looking to connect with you, where can they find you? I'm guessing on LinkedIn because you mentioned that earlier.
Yes. So I am on LinkedIn. My name is Corey Scott, but my maiden name was Ramsden. I made that my middle name. And a lot of people knew me by that. So you can find me by Corey Ramsden Scott in most instances. I do have a Facebook page, though. If you want to follow me as CEO of Midwest Dairy, you can follow me there.
Awesome.
And I take you, like when I took my Facebook followers to Guatemala with me. So that's a
and
great.
We're all going to go to India too.
Yes. And you're going to go to India with me too. So LinkedIn, you can find me, and Facebook, you can find me. I kind of stay off of the TikToks and the X, and it just sounds like a whole lot to manage. So I keep my life as simple as possible.
Agreed. And I will be sure to link those in the show notes for everyone so you can find her there. And Corey, with that, I have had an absolute blast chatting with you today and getting to know you, and can't wait to see you at the next DMI meeting because that's when the fun happens. Yes, not very long. So that'll be very exciting. And thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And we will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.